And so this is fair warning to you. When you give books to your friends, give them Era 1, where this is in the background, because from now on the gloves are off.
Welcome back, Sixers, to another episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. This is episode 124. That's right. Every digit in this episode is double the preceding digit. Ask me why I'm single. December 5th, 2022, and I am Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my conclusive co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome.
Hello.
Yep. Hello.
Remember, the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you're worried about spoilers on anything in the Cosmere, we recommend reading first and then coming back to join the discussion, because there's going to be spoilers tonight. For those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube, we do want to remind you that it's possible for listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. We record episodes every other Monday night starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so please join us and take an active part in the discussion. The podcast is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head on over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Pledging $1 or $2 per episode really, really helps us out as we continue to make the show, make improvements, and just work to make the show better. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with a bunch of other listeners and Cosmere fans. Got a great group of people over there. Awesome discussions going on. Just a lot of people. So, come join us. It'll be lots of fun. We have a great community, and you will also, of course, get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and some other good stuff. So I guess we're not doing the check-in for the rereads anymore because that's done.
Yeah.
Although I do have news I have to cover that I forgot to put in the show notes that we'll add in post. Lost Metal title belt.
Okay, we'll do that in just a second.
Okay,
so
cool.
But that is coming up. First, we'll do the Cosmere thing of the week. Shoot, I missed that, and I'm doing a great job this morning.
Cosmere
thing of the week. Darn. So, Jordan, what do we got today?
We got Legos.
So this is something I found on the Imaginary Cosmere subreddit. Somebody, I forget what the user was.
Guy123AV.
So they have put together 3 scenes using Legos, each of them based on one of Hoyt's stories. We've got, it starts with the what's it called? The boat,
Hoyt's various stories.
The Wander Sail. Gosh, what is up tonight? So we got the Wander Sail, we've got the Girl Who Looked Up, and the Dog and the Dragon. And they're very, very minimalistic, but they're really cool.
Yeah, they're really pretty.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of awesome. So yeah, check that out when you get a chance.
I especially like the middle one, the Girl Who Looked Up. But like, if you didn't tell me that was Legos, I wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They also did another one at one point with it was just a Mistborn based one, which I thought was really cool. And they've got a few up over there, so check that out. All right, Jordan, why don't you hit us with the Lost Metal title belt?
All right. So for those of you who didn't listen to it, you should really go back and listen to it because I bet it's hilarious in retrospect. But we held the Lost Metal title belt where people were competing for, of course, an Elantris leather-bound book because, look, we play with the toys that we're given. So I will first read out the top 5, and then I'll read out maybe some of the final bit. If you recall, people had to make their big, bold predictions. And I'm going to read off some of the people who made the most correct bold predictions. because some people are witches. So, tied for 5th place, we have Harrison B and Prasad B at 68 points. Then tied for 3rd place, we had 2 people at 74 points. Secret Searcher Hiram, who we got to meet at Dragonsteel.
I need to put up the selfies too. Goodness.
King's Daughter 613 also got 74 points. In 2nd place, simply named Max with 80 points. But the winner was Alec F with 84 points. So a little more separation than we got last time. Last time we were separated by 1 point. So
wow.
So we got a little more of a separation. Some of the best big bold predictions we had from Paulo H. Some said by the end of Era 2, Wayne will be a super influential and respected person on the whole society, dictating trends and things like that. And he's right. Just not in the way I think he intended to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, not quite the way we would have thought.
Another one was Wax gets a bunch of hemalurgic spikes and becomes a kind of like a Steel Inquisitor. Didn't get a bunch of hemalurgic spikes, but
he got one.
Got one and did like enough of a Steel Inquisitor that Marsh calls him brother now.
Yes, indeed. And the Khandra.
Yep.
And Wax tries not to feel uncomfortable. It's fine.
From James G, we got Wayne ascends to hold the shards of ruin / preservation, becoming Harmony. Not right. But the second part, he asks Sazed for a godlike hat to help him get into character.
Well, that's not wrong.
That was so specific. I'm like, I have to give points on this. Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
From another one of our longtime patrons, Q10 Fanatic. By the end of the book, Trellotrell's influence will be driven back temporarily. Good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
However, the balance of harmony will be thrown off and he will start calling himself Discord. Not untrue completely. Not specifically correct either, though. He will be able to take far more action in the Cosmere going forward, but he will be a darker figure than Sazed / Harmony we've known.
We've literally seen a darker version of Sazed.
It's literally a darker version. In world, this will be seen as a character death by some, which is something that Kelsier was thinking about. Is this actually my friend, or is it a friend-shaped
simulacrum?
Is it a facade of him? Yeah.
Yeah. Additionally, this will unlock
which, by the way, is ironic considering Kelsier is himself a cognitive shadow, which means he is an investiture skin suit.
Yeah. Additionally, this will unlock rapid technological and societal advancement that Sazed had been hoping for, which is literally something we'll be talking about today. Then 2 more from let's see, this was from Kelsier is Evil. Wayne will die. Marisi will be joining the Ghostbloods, but backs out knowing Kelsier, her god, is an evil megalomaniac, and Harmony becomes Discord. Definitely right on the first one, right on what Marisi does for the second, but not for the reasons that he states.
Well, I mean,
but I'd be disappointed if Kelsier's Evil didn't list it like this.
To a degree, actually, they're also not wrong, because she views him as too secretive, and to the point where she pointedly asks him, do you keep secrets from the Ghostbloods?
And he smiles.
But he doesn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I love Kelsier. But she doesn't view him as evil. She views him, because she mentioned, and we'll talk about this later, she mentions that she understands the need for secrecy, but she can't do it. But the person who got the most points was the person who won overall, because this was their prediction. Shai is a member of the Ghostbloods, which just putting that in, that's a big ding. Big ding.
Yeah.
Second, she will recruit Marisi, which it's like, okay, like she was recruiting Marisi, and she was pretty convinced that she would join. But the final part was who will in turn get Wayne involved. That part wasn't true, but Shai is a member of the Ghostbloods. That was a very bold prediction. There were no indications Shai was going to be involved in this book. So
yeah. So how did I score, Jordan, or do you have my score?
How did I score?
Later too.
How bad was
it? I'm
it?
just curious how bad I did.
No, that's not Amy. That's Aiden. I am still
Good name,
going
though.
down. All
Good
right.
source, good letter.
Near the bottom of the list, we have Amy at 39 points and Bill
39.
at 38 points. So, Amy, you won by 1.
Dadgummit.
Amy's big, bold prediction was Steris will become Mistborn and rule over the South Scadrians with wax. Baggins' prediction, Spook is alive somewhere working with Kelsier. Which
hasn't been proven false.
My gut is that Spook is dead, but we haven't seen a body.
Because there wasn't any reference to him, I'm less emphatic, but I'm not entirely.
I'd forgotten that was my prediction. I think I pulled that out of nowhere. I was like, I don't know. I guess that.
She was going for bold.
Yeah. And I way overshot. It's fine.
But, yeah, no, it's fine. And then
Right,
I thought
so
I figured this out, or I filled this out as well, but I don't see my name on it, so I think it maybe ate it because I was also the owner of it, and maybe I can't fill out my own form. But anyway, this was a ton of fun. I can't wait to do this for the next Stormlight book.
Congratulations to our winner. We'll be getting that book to you ASAP.
Leatherbound Elantris.
Right there.
Turned out to be more appropriate for this book than we could have predicted.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so into Sanderson news. Stormlight 5 is at Bing 22%. I need to get Brandon saying Bing is a sound drop.
Does he say Bing somewhere?
Oh, in all of his announcements,
he goes
whenever
Bing,
he
puts his hand out and they put the graphic there.
Jeez,
yeah. Whenever he says what his percentages is, he says we're at Bing 22%.
You're right. We do need to get that.
That's not an exact number. It's sort of an estimate because apparently it's going to be longer than expected.
Oh my god! Is this going to be like Donkey Kong Country? It finishes like 103% or something.
Oh man.
Well, no, like he said, he's at what would normally count at about a quarter of the way through the book, but he's like, I don't think I'm a quarter of the way through the book yet, though. So I'm going to mark it at 22%, but that's not exact.
He's guessing.
So.
Yeah.
It's just an oddly specific number for saying it's not exact.
Well, I think he's just saying it's
per 1,000 words.
I think he's basically saying it's more than 20%, but not quite 25%.
Yeah.
Also, signed pre-orders for the leather-bound copies of Alloy of Law and Shadow of Herself are already sold out.
Yeah, they sold out pretty fast, I heard.
Yeah, they sold out really quick. I was lucky enough to get a numbered one, so I'm excited about that. But
you should be excited about that. Do you know which number you got?
I do not know which number I got. But unsigned editions are still available, so if you want to go pre-order that, do it sooner rather than later, I would say. And he did say it's going to probably be a while till there's another signed edition, just because he's got
so many to do.
A bunch of signing stuff to do. He's working on Leatherbound Word of Radiance title stuff. So, Colas Head Munching Day is coming soon. That will be December 19th, 2 weeks from today, and actually the same day we record, which is awesome in one way and negative in another. I'll go into that in just a bit. So that means that the State of the Sanderson is coming out on December 19th. Again, Colas Head Munching Day, which just happens coincidentally to fall on Brandon's birthday,
just a coincidence,
is December 19th. And every year he puts out the State of the Sanderson, where he goes over everything that happened the previous year, and he'll talk about plans for the next year. Now, I am wondering how many plans/announcements we're actually going to get from it this year, just because he's getting to the point where he's got to be more secretive about stuff when as he's working with like movie deals and other things,
NDAs that are not fully under his control.
So yeah, that also, though, as part of that, he also announced that they are doing a bonus live stream that night, which will just coincidentally be at the same time as our stream. So I suspect our audience might be a bit smaller. If you want to come join us, we would love it. But we also understand if you're gonna go to, the source over us.
I'm just gonna watch it afterwards because
I may be watching it during the middle, so don't expect me to be paying much attention.
This is going to be a real low effort stream of us.
I'll give live
updates.
updates, and I might just start laughing randomly in the middle. I think that'll
Oh man.
do it.
This seems like a good idea.
Yeah. So the Lightweaver Foundation ornaments are now available at dragonsteelbooks.com. They've already sold out. So apparently they ended up ordering more than they originally had planned because they were already more popular than expected. And so they ended up getting them in two slightly different colors. There's a red and then there's a sort of a deeper maroon. The red are already sold out now, but you can get the maroon on dragonsteelbooks.com. The proceeds go to the School Zone, which is a charity associated with Intermountain Primary Children's Hospital. It helps kids who are in the hospital continue education in fun, interactive ways. They rent out iPads or check out iPads to them. There's tutoring options, all sorts of cool stuff. So Brandon has said that he and Emily will also match, like all the proceeds will go to the charity, and he and his wife will match the all the sales donated as well. So everything that's raised, they'll double it.
Which is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. So they also did mention that they do take about a week to get packed up and ready to go because they're fragile. So make sure if you want them for this year, order early because, and it also sounds like they're going pretty quick too. So The Lost Metal, as we already know, is out. It hit number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. It came in second to what Brandon was referring to as a fresh new author named John Grisham.
But apparently this was the highest one for a Mistborn book. So
yes, this was the highest for a Mistborn book. And also, if you factor in audiobooks, they did win. So, but New York Times does not include audiobooks. There has been a slight delay in printing for Secret Project number 1. So what that means is in the meantime, they've started packing up the Kickstarter boxes for February. And then as soon as they get Kickstarter Secret Project number 1 in, they'll put those together. But because of that, it's going to take most of the month. So it'll be later on in the month when you actually get that book. And there actually may even be some people who don't get it until into February.
So we'll just have to do it when we get them.
Keep that in mind. I'm looking forward to it because the year of Sanderson begins in less than a month. Thus begins the 1,000-year reign of Sanderson. No,
indeed.
Oh my goodness, yes.
He's not Luigi.
So that's a lot of news, and there will be more from him, in the upcoming weeks, and the State of the Sanderson in 2 weeks, of course.
Doc's asking if the digital versions are going to probably be held, but I don't.
The digital versions, I think, will still be available because if you ordered the books, I think the audio or the digital books actually come as part of that, if I remember right.
I think because they came with most of them.
So I think that the digital books will be available. I think he said on like the 3rd or 4th of the month.
Okay, so we all got digital, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so. If you ordered the books, I think that includes the digital.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But
yeah, so lots of stuff coming up, lots to be excited about, and again, State of the Sanderson coming soon.
Very soon.
All right, so guys, let's dig in. So this week we're focusing on just the epilogues because there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of stuff in them. It's like Brandon's like, okay, the book's about to finish. I need to put some stuff in here. We'll just make 7 epilogues and stuff them in here.
Yeah. And I loved it.
Question. Do we just want to go in order? Do we want to save the big one for last? Do we want to do the big one first?
If we start talking Kelsier, I'm not going to shut up. So
should we do it by character? Kind of.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
There are.
I know,
I think starting with Marisi is a great spot.
So let's just go chronological. All right, okay. Marisi, which happens 10 hours after the detonation. You know which one we mean.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part I cried the hardest.
It was hard.
With the detonation?
No, her when she finds out.
When she finds out.
Yeah. Like that was the hardest part. Like as hard as it was with Wayne himself, because holy crap, the final line of the
I
actual
cried.
books,
I cried with The Wind and the Stars and All Endless Things.
like but to me,
That's where
best ending line of Brandon's series so far.
Yeah, that's where I cried the most.
But
I mourned for Wayne.
But for me, Marisi, like, just losing it with Alec.
Yeah, I think the hard part for me
Mhm.
is that I still remember finding out that my father-in-law passed, and like that just did not feel real. And then here's Sanderson writing about Marisi losing Wayne, and I'm like, oh, I feel that.
Well, especially
That's
because you have a connection with Marisi.
because I cosplayed as her, and it's
Mhm.
not that that makes me an expert anyway, but it's
No,
just like
It does
I
make
had
you
a
an
more
expert.
personal, I had more of a personal experience that like totally related to it, so it hit a little
Mhm.
harder with that one. And it just, and like let alone how exhausted she was, and he did a really good job conveying that like she's like, I
Mhm.
can tell I'm tired, and everything's just going a little bit slower in her head, and she's just kind of frozen and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I've been there, and
Yeah.
that's awful.
Yeah,
I
2 days ago.
I do love
Or
that
yeah,
Alec
no,
is going to make her, help her through it with, food therapy.
yeah.
He
No,
is, oh, he's awesome.
no, but I get that too. Yesterday was actually the 2-year anniversary of my dad passing away, so
That's
I
hard.
kind of get that same feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I do worry for Marisi's health. I don't think Alec is going to be good for her health
For
wise.
insulin levels.
I just knew this couple where the wife was this amazing Southern cook, and so everything was deep fried, and so I only knew, the mister of the house is this really nice portly man, but then I saw an image of him when they got married, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the missus did this to you. Her
She
food
fed
was
you
too
too much.
delicious. And I think it's going to be the same in their relationship. I'm worried Alec is going to fatten her up like a Hansel and Gretel witch.
Well, I mean, shoot, you're just some guy who lives in my basement, and I probably haven't helped you because
Whatever, the stuff
I've been
you make is
cooking a
probably
lot.
healthier than the crap I've eaten, but
Yeah, like the cookies I made
or a Cornish game hen.
last weekend.
But no,
Anyway.
it was I loved it. But then in the middle of it, she has to go visit the Ghost Bloods at some stately
Mhm.
manor.
And turning them down, yeah.
Well, and I like the way she handled it. Like she really handled herself very well. Like even though she was in utter awe, she sees Kelsier, this
Her
person who she
god.
has been raised to worship, literally to
And
worship.
he's right there.
But I
With
also
dramatic
like
lighting.
well,
Oh,
and
yes.
I think that Twin Soul's entrance kind of helped her because she's sort of standing there stunned, and then Twin Soul comes in and she goes and hugs him.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of brought her back to reality and helped her kind of ground her in this situation.
Mhm.
No, but I love that scene because she comes in, she fully acknowledges that, yeah, I've met death. Wax has been talking to God, but this is different because this is the one
yeah.
that I've
Mhm.
been worshiping. And she sits there, but she actually pauses and she's like, because it's clear Twin Soul's there to, help seal the deal. He's like, I'll bring you on. I'll be your mentor. We're going to show you all so much cool stuff. You have
We're
no
gonna go
idea how
save
much cool
Shy,
stuff.
we're gonna save Moonlight. It'll be great.
Like it is the
Oh.
promise of the grand adventure. And
Mhm.
she's like, I swore an oath to protect the city, and I understand your need for secrecy. There's a need for covert operations. She literally started this book going on 2 of them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
She's
she's
like,
like, and I
but
can't.
I can't do it. Like I can't do it with secrets. That's not who I am. And I love that where it's like it's the perfect like ending arc for her character to as much as there's a little bit later, like this is sort of where her arc
Well,
ends.
she started the series as this idealist,
Yeah.
and she's going about this in an idealist fashion.
But it's become a tempered idealism.
She's tempered, she's matured. And she even mentions it's something that she started with and eventually left behind. And she's just like, had they come back to her? Had she come back to this? And she has, but she's from a much more mature and experienced
worldly, viewpoint.
perspective.
Well, and jumping a little bit ahead where, she's talking to Wax, she talks about how she needs new expertises. Because she starts the book as a theoretician. She has all these theories about what can and can't work and how she's gonna, change the
Fix
world with her
everything,
with her theories. But she then is with Wax and Wayne in the first book, and she sees, up close how hard decisions are made. And then she joins the constabulary, and she sees, when you're having to deal with the problem of something on this logistical size and she starts interacting with the politics of it and seeing, okay, there's a lot of moving pieces here. She needs to understand those moving pieces more. It's just this perfect end to she never lost the goal, but she's lost some of the she understands how hard it'll be now. And she's approaching it practically. But she still has the same goal. And it also mirrors, she started off kind of, with this fanciful idea of the roughs, lawmen, and all this stuff. And she ends by turning down the literal call to adventure. I love it. It's so well done. And especially to Kelsier of all people, like she started off turning down her hero or following her hero and then ends by turning down her god. It's a little bit of an escalation. I love it.
And I did like that both Kelsier and Twin Soul were like, you don't get to mess with her, to Eotil's brother. Yeah, that is the name I'm not going to say. Delaville, yeah.
Yeah,
anyway,
it looks very similar to Devil to me.
It does a little bit.
And so I'm wondering if that's a little bit of foreshadowing. But okay, so I told this to Bill. I want to mention it on stream because we got to Twin Soul's perspective after Marisi, and it's the whole thing where Delaville just sort of steps out of the shadows, like, okay, well,
I know
she turned us down, creepy. So we got to take care of her. And Twin Soul is not having any of it, and literally says, "Master Kelsier, rein him in." And Kelsier does exactly that. And on my first reading, I didn't catch this, but on the second reading, it's like, of course, Kelsier reins him in. We've literally seen this exact scenario with Kelsier before. Clubs left Kelsier's pitch meeting the first time, and Yedden said, "You gonna follow him? You got to take care of him. He knows where we are." And Kelsier's like, "No, we don't do that.
That's not what we do."
Yeah, because if people if there's an understanding that if you don't join up with me, you get killed, no one will ever come to these meetings. That's not how this works. That's on us. We have to make the sale.
And you have to make sure that you're only inviting people that you trust not to leak information that's going to hurt you.
And Kelsier says, we'll probably have to, burn this base. But that's not how we work.
Yeah.
So I want to take a step back to Delaville. I find it interesting. First off, it said he doesn't have a Southern Scadrian accent. He has a Silverlight accent. I believe this is the first time Silverlight is actually mentioned in the books, isn't it?
In a what is it?
It might be. I think it's been mentioned in the Arcanums before.
Yes, right. It was an Arcanum, but it was but in a text. It's the first time, I think.
Yeah, within the flow.
Anything that Chris didn't write.
Yeah,
I think this is correct.
I think that's the first time we've heard it. The other thing that's interesting, Delaville, if you look at the way it's spelled, it's very Thalen. It's very reminiscent of Thalen.
Yeah.
Because they don't like vowels, basically. And so you wonder, maybe he's got some either Thalen blood or Thalen influence in his.
Yeah, we don't know how Silverlight works, so who knows?
Well, Silverlight we know it's a city. It's in Shadesmar.
Yeah.
And it is sort of a trade hub for information within the Cosmere. So, there's a lot of culture cross there.
And the he's interesting, but I love because one, just like his sister, they have the masks that they've grown into, so it's literally impossible to read their face.
Yeah, so unlike Alik, he's not lifting it up and down all the time. It's grown into his skin.
And it's to me, just looking at it, because there's the line, Twin Soul does not trust this guy whatsoever. And he has the line, his sister is a muck on Roshar.
Running amok, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Which we know this happens after book 5. So I think this is one of our best hints as to what'll be going on in book 5. My prediction, based on that line, is that somehow Shallan is successful in not completely cutting off, but severely curtailing the ability to communicate between the Rosharan and Scadrian cells. And as a result, she is a muck because they're not getting the constant feedback from Kelsier, who might try to rein them in a little bit.
I think it's less that and more that she's just sort of gone rogue.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think that it's a matter of communication because they know that she's running amok. So, but who knows what running amok actually means in this
and so this is just my instinct because he tells him to rein him in, and so it implies to me that she doesn't have reins on her right now.
Maybe I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it just yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Twin Soul is quietly very interesting because it's our first time seeing Aethers in action. And he has the really cool line where Kelsier's like, you did a good job. He gives him the attaboy and tells him what a good job he did. And then it's good, because it feels good to have, one of your superiors acknowledge you. And then his Aether that he's bonded to tells him it's like, you deserve this praise, and that feels even better because he worships it as a god.
Well, I mean, to the point where he talks about how the Ethers, are what willed existence. They predate
the ones who sort of create.
Yes, we know that they predate all the Nalcium, but his reverence for it, he talks about how like they are what created things.
Yeah. It's very interesting to get to see finally see an Aether, and 2, see one in the Ghostbloods of all things, because clearly it's like, no, our goals align here. Let's do this. And so
this is other than the brief mention that we got in the Stormlight Archive from Ray's perspective, where we first find out about Mim's laundry service. This is the first time we've actually seen an Aether.
Yeah.
Like, Brandon has hinted at them and talked about them in Words of Brandon, and of course in the unpublished Aether of Night. But this is the first time we've actually seen it.
Yeah.
In canon.
Yeah. But I just like that. I like seeing it for just a brief moment from his perspective to understand what it is that that he's actually thinking, because otherwise we wouldn't have gotten any of it. And I like that while he's disappointed Marisi didn't take up the offer, he also likes seeing someone hold to their convictions. And so much like Marisi, he's conflicted.
I don't know. I like Twin Soul.
Yeah, I would love to get more from him later.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, so that's where that ended. And we'll get more from Kelsier later because he's going to have an awkward conversation with God.
Yep.
Yeah, which he hints that he needs to have at the end of it, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But first, now we go to Steris, 2 days after the detonation.
When she gets to take him home.
She's not a girl, she's a mom.
Yes,
and
I'd forgotten about that. The line from Max. It's like,
I love Max, and I
He's so
I love
cute.
that we did get one more appearance from him before the end of the book, because he just gets
Mhm.
to
He's
be
cute.
the cute little kid.
Okay, this is a dumb thing to focus on, but I love Steris watching over Wax, who's having to go around on crutches. And she's like, he's
Mhm.
not supposed to put weight on it, even if he can cheat by changing his weight.
Removing the
His
weight.
yeah. He's not supposed to break the rules that
And
way.
I hadn't thought about that aspect of his powers of, oh, if you sprain your ankles or whatever, this is going to be great.
Just make yourself lighter. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fair point though.
And then
Yeah.
on the way up, they agree that in honor of Wayne, that he has to grab her butt.
Yep.
Uh,
And he's like, well, I mean, it's only, we
He
have to
said
respect
so,
his
yeah.
wishes.
Mhm. And I think there's another time where she like sort of curses, and then people are like, language with her, and she's like,
That-
yeah, but I'm doing
that's-
it in respect.
Yeah, that's in the final scene.
that's in the final
Oh, okay.
epilogue.
Yeah.
But I love that Steris, who had the most difficult time with Wayne, also is the one who wrote down all his little quotes, and she's the one who's respecting. He's like, no, we should respect
Well-
his wishes and do it the way he wants.
Well, like I said, between the Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning, and then the Lost Metal, they clearly developed a loving relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or at the very least, a respectful relationship.
I think there
Yeah.
was genuine affection, though.
I mean, I think once Wayne saw how happy Wax was with Steris, and that got to know her better, he's like, no, I
Mhm.
can respect that. I'm not her, but I can totally respect it. I mean, how
Well,
much he gets into people's heads.
And he even specifically mentions to Wax, I was wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of
I
those
was wrong
things.
about
It's
her.
nice to see that he had forgiven her for not being Lessie, and she had forgiven him for being, well, kind of
Wayne.
a jerk. He was
For not-
just
she had
Wayne, he
forgiven
was
him
mean
for not
to her.
forgiving
Like, he
her.
was legitimately mean
Yes, he
to
was.
her.
He
And
was.
but it's clear that they had worked it out, and I like
Mhm.
seeing people work things out.
Yes.
Mhm.
I also love it. Makes so much sense for her to write down things Wayne said, because there's no one who would confuse her more than Wayne.
Mhm.
And she's
And
like, if I write it down, maybe I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Well, because she even says, like, I learned to cheat, like, from him.
Mhm.
If
And
she
pulls out
writes
the
it
book,
down
like,
later she can collate it and
yeah,
make spreadsheets.
that make her so happy, and that's
Yeah.
just what
Well,
you gotta do.
Again, this is ahead, but the fact that they're later on they're going to have plaques that can change the quotes, and Wax
Mhm.
mentions she's already planning to change the bottom one to one of the ones she wrote down.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But no, her entire section, and then I love that she gets the note from the governor,
Mm-hmm.
and she's
Yeah.
like, no, because she's worried she's going to be
Oh,
asked to
no.
be vice governor, and then
Yep.
Mhm.
it's like our planner of disasters,
Like
or
natural
what-
disaster.
Disaster planning.
yeah,
And I'm
head,
just like,
head of Scadrian FEMA, and
I can do that.
She's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is fine.
Disaster preparations officer.
That's
There
what
we
it
go.
is. The good old DPO. And but I love the governor's message to her, because both of them were people who were very unsure of themselves, and
Mhm.
they've both found a way forward with each other, even though it's a weird political marriage, for lack of a better term, between someone who was a patsy and someone who was an ignored member of high society. They found what
Yeah.
the other one is useful for. He made her feel wanted. She made him feel like he actually could accomplish
Feel
something.
useful.
And
Yeah.
the two of them want to work with each other more. It's just like, aw.
Mm-hmm.
Cute.
No, I really, I like it. It fit. It's appropriate.
And I liked that he expressed appreciation to her and said, I wouldn't have been able to look as good as I did. I wouldn't have been able to accomplish what I did without you, which feels even more gratifying, considering that, like, he and everybody else tried to kind of brush her off earlier
Yeah.
Mhm.
when she tried to help out in Wax's absence.
Well, and you see
I
the
mean-
influence of, the pre-alphabet, the previous vice governor,
Oh goodness, yeah.
was just,
the terrace lady.
clearly was pulling all the strings with him, that he was a full patsy. And
Adenwinth or something. Oh goodness,
yeah,
I'm never gonna get her name right.
alphabet. Yeah, you said it right.
Adenathwin or
Yeah.
I am so glad she didn't turn out to be as important as possible, because between her name and Wax's grandmother, I am done with terrace names.
They're lovely names. They're just really long and lots of vowels.
They have a lot of soft TH sounds that I am struggling with.
Jordan, I've got bad news for you about the Unkalaki.
Oh no. What's the bad news about the Unkalaki? They're all
Their
getting
names?
nicknames like Rock. I don't care. They understand.
That's great.
Our sick lowlanders like us can't handle such
We just
flowery
can't handle
names.
it, yeah.
Anyway, it's a very, very hopeful epilogue moment. It's just sort of
It's cute.
I can do this. I can be happy. I can, it's just this very optimistic epilogue.
Mhm.
And then we move into Alriandra.
Oh man, this one hurt.
So this is the girl whose father Wayne killed all those years ago. We remember from the earlier books, he's been going to her home every month to give her money for school, and just basically as to punish himself and as reparations for what he did to her family.
And
she has
without
very
rednecks and Jaxie. I always forget which vowel's in the middle. He wouldn't do it. Like, he kept thinking she wants to punish me.
Chew me out. Yeah.
And
he's thinking, I deserve this.
Yeah.
This is what I need to happen. And they keep saying, you're torturing that poor girl just as much as you're torturing yourself.
Yeah, and he finally
She's told you she doesn't want you to come, and you keep doing it.
And it starts
because
off she's in a terrible spot.
Because he sees that she does take some pleasure in not forgiving him. But in doing that, he's also not giving her the opportunity to forgive him.
And to move past it. Yeah.
Which is hurting her. And she's obviously fallen on some rough times in the past few years. Her art studio that she put together after graduating has failed. I don't know if she even graduated.
I think she did.
Okay, I thought I
saying,
wasn't
like,
sure.
School bills. So I think she has debts somewhere, and I don't know if it's school debts or what. But somebody
she says that it's debts from her. She says it's debts from her failed art studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then of course she's got a child now that she's trying to raise, and it's really interesting the way she looks at it. She's like, this is one of her, worst mistakes, hardest things, but it's also one of her most beloved things. She adores her daughter.
Yeah. But I'm sure she wishes things had started differently in that whole situation.
Yeah. And then
I did find it
her reaction to the announcement.
I did find it interesting that none of the things that she worried about were that the payments would stop. Like she didn't, she mentioned, I don't know how she, like she thought she should feel satisfaction, but she didn't, she was talking about all these different things she felt, but none of them were fear that the payments would stop.
Yeah. And I mean, even though she thinks that he doesn't have much money, even though he's given out X number every month, but,
of course, then she finds out that Mr. Wayne Terraceborn was, what was it, 120 million?
I think 150 once. It was 100 million liquid. Like that's like
120 million liquid.
It was just it was that much liquid, and it's just like, and it's like, by our estimates, you're now the 4th richest person in all of LA
in the city.
Well, the other thing, I didn't realize this, that the two accountants were named Mr. Call and Mr. Daring, and I'm like,
just 20?
Daring Call.
No. Oh, so no, it's 20 million boxings liquid.
Oh, 20 million.
120 million total.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot.
20 million liquid. Okay. And her debts amounted to 10,000. So
Yeah. So she's like, oh, that's, I can just pay that.
I love the little background of it was like a bunch of people like in her family who like pooled together to send her to the city so she could get this education. And it's just like you just see this whole like this is why she feels all this pressure.
Well, and then she's, now in the situation she's going through some emotions.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. Because I mean, that big of a change in your situation would be too much to process that quickly.
Well, I love she finds this all out, and then the first thing her daughter does is like wipe her nose on her.
She wipes toothpaste that she'd been drawing on the wall. On the card.
She grabs the card and gets toothpaste on it.
Yeah, and then she wipes her she sneezes and wipes her nose on her jumpsuit and just wonderful juxtaposition.
She can't process, don't care.
Yeah.
I'm rich now. What? Yeah.
So are we shipping this little girl with Max, or is that something we're doing?
I don't know. 30 years I don't know that she would want to associate that way, but it would be cute.
What are you talking about? They're both high society now.
Yeah. So clearly they deserve each other.
I don't know.
Anyway. No, but I do think that this event right here, while it is just a nice little bow to be tied, I think that this is going to have impacts on Era 3. Because suddenly you have a wealthy family.
Mm-hmm.
And 70, 80 years down the line, they're going to be influential.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think there's potential for something interesting there.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fact that she gets a whole scene at the end kind of makes me feel like it's going to be more than just a closing off of Wayne's situation with her. It's more, there's going to be effects afterwards, like you're hinting at, Bill.
Possible. Yeah, very possible.
So.
Well, it's going to be very interesting because she's going to be coming from a very different circumstance than the other people who will be working into this money, because the others are either going to be nobles who inherited this, their family's wealth, that they have to manage that, or it's going to be other entrepreneurs that were able to move up through society. She's interesting because she's not like she is an heiress the way the nobles are. She didn't do anything to make this money happen, but she comes up. She's going to be coming up from the industriousness side of someone who was poor and didn't have things, and will have appreciation for it. And further complicating things, it comes from the guy who killed her father.
Yeah,
but that's an interesting situation.
And you have lots of situations just coming from the old money versus new money that we had in the American history, at least, and I'm sure this happened in Europe as well, but I don't, in other countries, but I don't know those backgrounds.
It happens everywhere.
But, I just don't know them as much.
I've got it. She's an artist. Her daughter's going to draw the Wax and Wayne comics. She's going to find out about this benefactor who brought her out of poverty when she was a little girl. And she's going to research him, and she's going to draw the Wax and Wayne comics.
Wait, because that actually works even better, because we find out in the chapter that where Wayne's actually dealing with his accountants, they mention that somehow he tricked Wax into signing away his own likeness, and she will have inherited it, because that's going to be part of the holdings. She owns Wax's likeness.
Oh, man. Ooh. I like it.
Maybe that could be a point of tension between the Ladrians and this. Wayne could still cause problems. I love it. Good times.
Nope. I'm saying it's going to be the daughter. She's the daughter of an artist. She's going to become an artist herself, and she's going to start the comics.
Yeah, my reason I don't know that I would think it would be Alriandra is because she'd have too many conflicting feelings to want to draw an adventure
maybe that would be the perfect reason too.
That's how she
for
works
Alriandra to do it. Is she's working through her own confliction, and she's like, I'm going to try and represent the man, all and warts and all.
And then her daughter comes in for the Silver Age of of Wax and Wayne comics.
And they reboot
become-
it, get better special
great.
effects. Do you mind if we skip over Kelsier and do Renette and Milan after this? Because this feels more like those
Sure.
three
Yeah.
work better.
And then we can come back to Kelsier.
Yeah. So
Getting the shorter ones
Yeah.
out of the way as well.
well, and also the
Yeah.
ones that deal more with Wayne.
with the aftermath.
Yeah,
of Wayne,
because
and
because Renette's situation's very similar because they're coming back from their honeymoon,
Mhm.
and apparently it's
Yeah.
going to be like the last people who ever get to go on vacation to Southern Scadrial.
To be
Mhm.
tourists, yeah.
And
Before the Iron Curtain falls.
yeah,
Mm,
We've got a Cold War coming
Yeah.
up.
I know.
the steel curtain, but the
The harmonium curtain.
yeah, and
you
so the I love it that Jaxie's like he left us a lot of money, and she said it said in the well I had to do something nice for you, but and I quote nothing skeevy.
Nothing skeevy. Yes.
Let me just say, Brandon has done an impressive job of introducing and briefly covering Jaxie and making her immediately likable.
Oh, she's so bubbly and cute. I love it. And I think the juxtaposition of her and Renette is that Renette's
Oh,
so
yes.
dour and kind of
Oh, absolutely.
grumpy and surly, and then you have Jaxie who's all like bubbly and happy and like, and I think she's even blonde too, right? Isn't she? And so like,
I don't
at
remember.
least in
Mhm.
my head, she's blonde. So there's like a visual difference in them too, because Renette's brunette. And anyway,
Mhm.
I just love it.
Well, and she doesn't shoot anyone,
Yeah.
so
she doesn't
that
do
also. Okay, I
And
love.
she thinks the roughs are cute and stuff like that.
Well,
Like the restaurant.
I love that Renette gives Wayne like her final send off to Wayne is sort of the whole, and it's like, but I mean, if you have to die in that explosion, though,
Yep.
That's
Which
the way to go.
was exactly what Wayne wanted to be known for.
yeah,
You know,
I just
he
love-
like that's his one question is that the biggest explosion that any person has ever set off?
and it's kind of hilarious for the guy who always wanted Renette's approval.
Yeah.
He got it,
And
There you
that's
go.
how he
I
got
love
it.
He got
You
it.
got it.
Well, and then
biggest
I
ham
love the way
explosion.
how Jaxie, you know, because he just gave money and said do something nice, and Jaxie basically bought her a shop,
Yeah. Well, and just
which is another thing that I think is going to have an impact 70, 80 years down the line.
Mm.
You know, instead of the Browning Corporation or something, we're
It's
gonna
gonna be Renette.
have Renette's.
I love his final line in his letter to her though. Anyway, I want to say thanks for not throwing the Wayne out with the Wayne, you know? Enjoy the
Mhm.
gift. Build something real awesome.
I
Yep.
know.
And it's just 'cause,
Well-
other than Alriandra, the person who had the most to be pissed off with Wayne about
Mhm.
is Renette, because he would
Well-
not leave her alone.
And compare that note to the one that he gave Alriandra, because
Yeah.
he finally, sort of took to heart the lesson of she doesn't want to hear from you. So all he sends is just sorry.
Yeah.
Heck of an apology though.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
But
But I mean, he did invest in Tesla early, and
Electricity and aluminum and stuff.
I'm speaking of the equivalent of Nikola Tesla.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
not the
you do need
electric
to
car.
qualify. Although you weren't
Oh, yes.
wrong either way. No, well, and the fact that I still just love that his financial advisors think that Wayne is the best investor in the history of the world, and all Wayne did was like literally on some of the stuff it's him just trying to be kind to someone who lost their father, but
Mhm.
on the other side
Well-
it's just him like, how do I get rid of this money so these people leave me alone?
And
Well,
like he's
it-
like, just build houses for people, and they're like, yeah, and they're doing really great. And he's like, well, just make sports that, yeah, because then
Have
they
you
can
ever
get their
seen the-
violence out that way.
Have you ever seen the movie Brewster's Millions?
Yes.
Probably, but I forgot.
Basically, this guy, this bum, this guy who's living his life horribly, inherits a bunch of money from his great uncle or something, with the stipulation of if you spend all of this, like it's $30 million. If you spend it all within 30 days and have nothing to show for it, then you'll actually inherit 300 million.
Oh, sheesh.
And so but he can't tell anybody. And so he's trying to spend all this money, and like one of his friends invests some of the money for him and comes back and he's like earned $10 million. And it's just
He's like, no.
yeah. So anyway, it's just, the premise was similar to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I love it. It's gonna be interesting to see what Renette weapon factory comes up with in the meantime, because the coolest thing about her is that she comes up with custom weapons built for Metalborn, and because she had the big gun, as it was just called, which only could be wielded by literally someone who is a skimmer.
And again, we have a Cold War coming up.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the really big gun.
Oh man.
What is Renette, weaponsmith's equivalent of the Jericho from Stark Industries?
I'm now just imagining like one of Renette's like not ancestors, what's it going forward? Descendants. God, I couldn't think of the word. Just be it's like I bring to you, and then there's just this big explosion behind her, and it's the harmonizer.
Oh man.
No, it'd be the ruin. That's what it'd be. The ruin.
The ruin.
The Discord.
Ooh, that'd be good. Anyway.
But yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on there.
Milan's was even shorter and more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So first off, I find it interesting. Milan's is 19 months after. That's how long it took her to get word.
Yeah. Which,
so
that leans into something that Kelsier says that Shadesmar is unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get messages out.
Yeah. And but at least there's apparently the messengers, whatever they are. I'm guessing they're seance.
Yeah, they are Shodel, which...
Or no, her guide was...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
The guide is a Shodel, but the messenger thing is flitting across, so I'm guessing it's a Seon or something.
It sounds like a Seon.
Well, and I love Milan's thought. It uses connection to find whoever it's trying to get to. It's like, that's terrifying.
That's kind of unnerving, yeah.
But no, that you mentioned the Shodel. Yeah, so this is the first, again, Shodel that we've actually seen. The only other one that we've had mention of is Ulida, aka Ambition, who was splintered above Thrinity.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that, yeah.
So, because we know that there are, I believe, 3 races, natural races from Yolen. And that's the humans, the Shodel, and the dragons. And so we've now actually seen examples of all 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things. As soon as I saw Shodel, I'm like, shut the front door.
Oh my. Here we go.
And then she gets the unfortunate news, and we get to see Milan just her whole thing about this is supposed to be easier.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the last line just hurts.
Which line?
After all, she could remake, rebuild, and regenerate her heart. That was what her kind did. And it's like, oh, honey. It hurts.
Yeah, I am very interested to see, because we're going to see more of Milan, I think, in Stormlight back half is when we're going to see her, because this happens between the two, and so that's
and some people are theorizing because she's apparently helping some sort of refugees, and they
red
hair. So a lot of people are theorizing horn eaters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because it sounds like they come across an island, and I'm like, the Horn Eater Peaks. There's not. There are pools, water. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting.
Very interesting.
There's also potential for Yakaved, with Vedin people who have Horn Eater blood, but which would be interesting. Which would be interesting considering Taravangian was the king of Yakaved when he ascended.
Oh.
Yep.
But no, I think it is more likely that it's horn eaters since there's a lot of them.
And we know that Rock's book is supposed to come out sometime too.
Called horn eater. Yep.
I know.
All right, Kelsier time. And his
Well, do
awkward
we want to
conversation.
end with Kelsier or do we want to end with Wax?
We could go with Wax. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll end with Kelsier.
So let's go. Huh?
Yeah, let's go with Wax.
Okay, let's move on to Wax. So this is 2 years later at the dedication of a glorious statue
Yes.
with interchangeable hats and interchangeable quotes.
Wax.
I love
Yeah,
it.
on the bottom. Mhm.
Well, it's I can't remember who said it in our Discord, but
Mhm.
the whole thing that they have to make other statues with other interchangeable parts so that Wayne can trade them.
Not just have his own switched, but switch from somebody else. Yeah.
But the line from Wax of, his hand outstretched, probably so he could rob you with the other one, but most people will think he's just trying to help.
Help. Yes.
And then
Wayne.
and I love the conversation. One, we get to find out that Marisi got Wayne's lucky hat.
I know.
We find
Mhm.
out Wax thought he got nothing, and then he finds out what he instead got.
Oh no.
We're regular pranks.
was just that
It's supposed to be a live frog, but it's taxidermy.
yes,
and
but
then,
I,
like, the
I
half
love
sandwich.
that it's being done by accountants, and so it's
I'm so sorry.
that's just
I'm
when it
so
comes
sorry
to
about this.
apology. It's like, but Wayne's will was very specific.
Specific. Yeah, and I mean there was a line in Alriandra's thing where it's like, so there were some random, there were some specific things, and she's like what?
back.
And then
They
the
were
sequel-
individual.
yeah, and that ends, and I'm like, what is it?
They're of a
gonna be? And then
more
it-
individual nature.
yes, and it's all of the pranks on Wax.
Mhm.
And
But I do
Well,
love this.
and Renette's shop.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
and Ollery, and we know he started up the sports league.
Mhm.
So I bet there's
I'm
a
sure
bunch of
that's
other
continuing.
smaller ones that he has.
Well, that's right. The Noseball League.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I do like that it's where is it where Wax is like, he's not gonna I'm sure they'll run out of items on his list soon enough, and then both women stared at him. Did you know Wayne? Marisi
Well, and then I
asked.
love, he's like, yeah, he could never let a joke die. And in my head, the first thought is, right, Wayne literally would let himself die before a joke can die.
It's true. It's true.
But-
Man.
I love that. And then Death shows up.
Yeah.
And
It's
nobody
okay.
notices.
He's wearing a hat. Like, they
I
don't
know.
say
Yes, he
hood.
is.
He said he's wearing a hat.
But I mean, it makes sense out of respect for Wayne.
Yeah.
And it would stand out less too, I think, than a hood would.
Yeah. But at the same time, he's like, oh, it's emotional allomancy.
But
And
apparently, they don't believe that that's.
I don't
They're
think
like,
it is the case.
Don't know about that. Just
I'm
gotta be
curious what else it
something.
would be.
So all I can think of is maybe some sort of trick with connection. If he
That's
has,
what I was thinking, like storing ferrochemical connection.
but in theory, that should not be directional. Like, that should be more general.
Maybe, with all of his spikes and stuff, he's become a savant of some sort, or
Yeah.
And I mean, he's Marsh, so.
yeah, or maybe he's just too awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
Rule
thing
of
it could
awesome.
be is maybe it is some form of emotional allomancy, but being as old as he is, maybe
As old, as practiced, as
Yeah.
powerful.
Well, because
Mhm.
he said in the first one, I'm not as good as Breeze, but we've had years since then.
Well,
Oh,
and
yeah,
and
he's had
you know,
time.
Brandon is all about centuries of practice can make you better, because Ishar
Yeah.
was only a middling, an average swordsman amongst them, but he's just been around so long. Same with Vasher, he's just been
Yeah.
around so long. He was worse than others, but
He's
now
just good, yeah.
Brandon. I think Brandon has said that Vasher is actually the best swordsman around at this point. I need to double check that.
Could be, yeah.
No, but the other, I think there's something else going on. This gets back to the Kelsier thing, where they say, "Oh, we're using adium to keep him alive." It seems like it would still take too much trellium which is now a much more limited resource, for that to be reliable. And my thinking is they've done something else, that there's something else going on, that they're, because this is 2 years after the detonation at this point. And so it's well possible that maybe from the Kelsier conversation about getting allies, that they're now using something else. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know.
All I know is this caused me a problem when I was doing the tabulations for Lost Metal Title Belt, because one of the rules was it has to be used hemalurgically, ferrochemically, or allomantically, and adium was one of the metals. And I was like, oh, well, we never saw that used. And then I realized, wait, we literally saw him deflate in age. And I'm like, that's because he was using ferrochemical atium. And I'm like, dang it. And so I had to go back and fix things.
Yeah.
Never mind. He says that Adolin's the best that he's ever written, at least or the best other than from The Wheel of Time as of 2020. So
Gotcha. But it was just one of those, like anytime Marsh shows up, kind of awesome.
It's awesome. I know.
Well, and then just the
he's just
creepiness
so
of him
natural.
calling Wax brother.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like creepy.
I've heard the theory that when people mention the Life Brother, they're referring to Kelsier as well. There is a line, I can't remember exactly. So the term Life Brother actually came up in this book at one point. I can't remember where it was. And people were like, who is the Life Brother? I think that they are referring to Kelsier.
That would make sense. Life, yeah, Death Brother and Life Brother.
Life,
Mhm.
yeah.
And the Survivor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Yeah, I follow the logic there.
But
the other theory I've seen that's out there, it's 2 years since then. There's a chance that maybe they found Shy, and it could be a soul stamp thing.
That's also possible.
But I would think it'd be difficult to do a stamp on Marsh, given how much his spirit web is being held together with baling wire and spikes.
Well, I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Shay, though.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Shy made herself become an Elantrian.
So, yeah, you just kind of props to her. Yeah.
Zeth mentions the Life Brother when he's speaking to Taravangian.
Oh.
But there is a line somewhere when they're talking about Marsh, they're like, and then his brother who is Life. And so I think that there's a crossover there.
Okay.
That's what it was.
But no, and I also love the line. It's like, he has the line. It's like, I don't like dealing in my own like wares or something, referring to death. And it's like, and it seems
taking
like
of my own goods.
Yeah, that's right.
Taking
of
my own goods.
And then it's like, well, must run in the family. And he's like, must do that. But no. And then the final line of just the whole thing where, one, you find out Marisi's making plans to run for governor at some point in the future, but like a proper, like someone who actually knows what they're doing, they're like, okay, what expertises do I need to get first?
I need to make sure I know I'm good at doing this politics thing, and she's going to go be an ambassador.
And she's a perfect, like, Steris is correct. Like, she is the perfect ambassador, given their situation.
Well, and again, especially with the closed borders. But she is, romantically involved with a Southern Scadrian.
Well, and the other thing, she is one of 2 people who is intimately aware of how the bands of mourning work.
Yes.
She has used them. That's a very good point.
Which
that's going to be
might
important.
make some of the Southern Scadrians angry, though, that she used them.
But that's going to be part of it. Is that it's a sticking point that they have to work out, because otherwise they're going to be stuck. It's the equivalent of nukes, and they have to work it out. They have to find some sort of way that they can handle this, because otherwise it'll just become a power game.
I still say the bands of mourning are a mundane forgery by Shy. Just putting that out there again.
I don't have.
Cover
I'm not
band
even going
theory.
to guess.
I think that Kelsier has the actual bands.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm like,
And
I
honestly,
don't even want to guess.
he has the most claim to them.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah, I mean, he made him.
he's the most neutral party of all of them as well. Like
Mhm.
even more so than the Kandra.
Yeah, because the
Mhm.
Kandra, as far as the Southern Scadrians are concerned, have favored the Northern Scadrians.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where it's well positioned, and I like Marisi's approach to all this. And
Mhm.
I love her whole thing of, you know, I went into this thinking I was going to go into politics, but then I, you know, got into all this law stuff, and I just didn't know. Like, does that make sense to you? And then she looks at Wax, and she suddenly realized, oh yeah, now I remember who I'm talking to. Of course, it makes
Mhm.
sense to you. That's literally your character arc.
Yep.
Yep.
Because once again, Marisi started off like being like, oh, Wax, and wanting to be this hero of the roughs. And she accidentally did step into Wax's shoes, down to becoming
Mhm.
Wayne's partner and all of that. Just Marisi's character arc is one of the most satisfying Brandon's written because it works
Yeah.
on so many levels.
And every step makes sense for her character.
Yeah, no point. It's
Like that,
it's
she doesn't feel contrived.
No.
no, not
Well,
at
and
all.
she's also the one. She's been part of two of the biggest um subverted expectations in this series, because in book one, everybody's shipping her with Wax, and he walks
Doesn't
away.
happen. Yeah.
And here, everyone's thinking, okay, she's going to join the Ghostbloods, and she walks away.
Mhm.
The
She's
girl
gonna
who
do
walked
what she wants
away.
to do.
It's the next Hoyd story.
Oh man.
That sounds like a Doctor Who episode.
It kind of does.
Oh man.
But then
It
the
does,
final
yeah.
line of the whole thing is, he's trying to think, who am I? And then he gets the letter from Harmony.
Mhm.
Oh dang it!
I
I just want to
love
read it.
that.
It's so good.
It's
Do you want
beautiful.
me to read it, Jordan?
Do you have it? Yeah, go ahead.
I have it, yeah. I've heard distressing things, Waxilium Ladrian, that you've been worrying about. I would like to promise you something. With all the essence and axie of my being, I declare this. No one else moves you. Your life is yours, and you have my deepest apologies that I had a hand in teaching you otherwise.
Beautiful.
Well, and just the fact this entire book series started out because of a crazed serial killer saying, someone moves us, lawman. And it's just ending it with the whole no one else moves you. Just finally shutting the door.
It's just you. Yeah.
But then the final line, Father, lawman, senator, he could be all thing and more, so long as he was helping people.
Oh.
It's just like, oh, it's so good, Brandon.
All the feels.
Okay. Let's go into Jordan's favorite. You know what? I'm going to step back and let Jordan take the reins for a bit.
Okay, first of all, this scene is so good. Not because Kelsier is involved in it, although let's be honest, I mean, at least like 2 notches up, right? No, but because here are 2 friends sitting on the edge of a city, both of them, mythical figures, and both now in very difficult situations with their friend for completely legitimate reasons on both sides, not trusting each other despite their history for legitimately good reasons on both sides. And Brandon writes this so well because it's from Kelsier's position, and as he has done every single time he writes Kelsier, he lets Kelsier be the unreliable narrator he is. Because if there's one thing Kelsier's good at, it's fooling himself. And people who think Kelsier is evil, like one of my favorite names over on Reddit, can see evidence for his theories. People like me who thinks Kelsier's still a good guy, there's the evidence for my theories, and it works perfectly in this wonderfully moral gray area that I love.
It's Charles Xavier and Eric Lyncher.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man.
Except I don't know which one's Magneto in the situation.
Well, you have one who's who's really good at moving around metal with his mind, and you have another who can speak to people in their brains.
Yeah, that does work. Good point.
So
yeah.
So one of the
Multiple
things
levels there.
I love the line where he's looking, because first of all, we find out, okay, he doesn't actually have any powers anymore. And it's like, okay, good. Get confirmation on that. 2, he's looking up at the sky and he's seeing the stars and he's not lamenting, but talking about, in the past he was one of the few who could see this, blah blah blah. It's like he sees them all, stars, suns, planets, each one of them a potential threat, because Kelsier is nothing if not paranoid. And let's face it, the events of Secret History, where we saw the Irie plotting to take over preservation, where he saw Ruin threatening to destroy the planet, and now he's seen autonomy trying to destroy the planet. That has not helped his paranoia one bit.
Well, and I do find it interesting also that we get two conflicting statements, because Kelsier mentions that the shards were out of balance, and that Ruin's power was growing. But there's also a mention that Ruin's power is dominated by preservation. And so it's just
What's
interesting.
That second line? I don't remember that line.
I don't remember. It was in one of these epilogues, and I've already forgotten which one it was in.
Well, but that would at least lead to. What you're talking about is in the Ars Arcanum.
That's right. It was in
Chris.
the Ars Arcanum. Yes, it was Chris.
But what I think what Chris is talking about is the intent is out of balance, because Sazed favors personally preservation, and it has caused. I think it's what's causing the discord is that Sazed hasn't done a good job of keeping them in balance. But Ruin always had more power than preservation,
because preservation had put the power into the people.
Well, and think about it. It's what makes Sazed's lie about no Adonalcium being created in the explosion.
Lerasium.
Lerasium. Wow. Okay. What would Adonalcium's metal be called? Just Adonalcium?
Adonalcium. A lot of people have wondered if Adonalcium actually is
the metal.
Is the metal.
Could be. Anyway, Lerasium. It makes perfect sense. It's a perfect lie to tell Kelsier, because Kelsier does know that Ruin is stronger, or was stronger. And so it would make perfect sense to him that in a reaction of these metals, that the god metal left over would be Atium, not Lerasium. And so it's the perfect
because there's naturally more atium in the world anyway. So
it makes perfect. It's a great lie to tell, and it's a lie that Kelsier buys. And because you can say certain things like, "Oh, does Kelsier buy this or that?" That one you cannot, because Kelsier's next line is something to the effect of, "Great, there's a thing," and it's not what he says to Sazed, it's what he says in his own head. So he buys that.
Playing devil's advocate, I don't believe this myself, but playing devil's advocate, that could just be, okay, so talking to Sazed about this is a dead end about getting.
You could,
but I personally think that you're right, and that he actually believes Sazed.
Yeah,
which again is an interesting contrast.
Simplest solution,
but it's an interesting contrast from Secret History, where he said Sazed had never been a good liar.
Yeah,
The other thing is he specifically asks Sazed, "Are you lying to me?" Sazed's response is not an answer. He does not say no. He says, "Have I ever lied to you?"
Which, because this is what I love. Because "Have I ever lied to you, old friend?" Sazed opened his eyes and met his gaze, showing infinity within those depths. And we don't get another thought from Kelsier after that, so we do not get to see whether or not Kelsier believes that part.
Also, again, the Professor X Magneto comparison. Have I ever lied to you, old friend?
Yep. I will stop you.
Old friend.
It's perfect. But I love the interaction, because you see Kelsier is so frustrated with Sazed. He's like, "How did you let it cut this close? You got lucky with this, this, and this." Sazed, "I can see the future. It's not luck." And he's just like, "Bull crap." Like, it's the way friends can talk to each other.
Well, he's also talking to him, and like Sazed responds like a friend who is going through a rough time, and you're saying, "Talk to me." And his response is, "I've got it under control."
And he's like, his eyes are shut, trying to hide his reactions.
It's, oh man.
Well,
I'm fine.
Let's see where. I love this line, and I will consider. Consider, Kelsier said, this is all going to get worse unless we can stand against the outsiders. Yes, their army withdrew from Shadesmar. You're welcome for my people's help with that, by the way, but only because autonomy is regrouping. But it's just the whole thing. I just love the whole. It's like Kelsier is just sitting here. It's like, what about the next threat? The next threat. And
Mhm.
it's clear Sazed is seeing something in, or at least he's claiming to see something. We don't get his perspective, but I believe Sazed
Yeah.
on this point that he's seeing something where if I just hand it to them, it's worse off long term.
And because I mean, he also has made comments or implications or whatever before that like he needed to try and push people to speed up on what they developed because he coddled them too much. And I can see
Yeah.
if you just give people technology, they're not going to work their way through it, and they're going to miss things and skip stuff,
Well, I mean, you
and they
look at
won't
the
understand how to use it as well and the implications of what the technology can do.
you look at the advances from Alloy of Law to now. That's over the course of 6-7 years.
It's a
Yeah.
big jump.
And there are huge jumps. They go from carriages to cars being a regular thing. That it's just like they're going
big.
leaps and bounds. Meanwhile, the set is launching a nuke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I love about it is everything Sazed says could be 100% true. There's no way for Kelsier to know that. And so Sazed can be like,
Mhm.
no, I had this, like, this was all on purpose. It needed to be this close. And Kelsier can't trust that because he's seeing the darker Sazed. He sees discord lurking in the shadows. And
Literally.
So, yeah. And so he can't trust that. But from Sazed's perspective, you can't trust Kelsier. There's no system that Kelsier is not capable of screwing up. He literally was the right hand of ruin for most of his life without knowing it. And so both of them, they can't trust each other even as much as they want. They want to trust each other, and you see it. You see it in their conversation. Kelsier likes trusting people. That's literally his whole speech to Vin about,
Well, I mean,
I can't work with the crew if I don't trust them.
well, and again with the whole, no, we're not going to kill this person, but it's just we're going to have to trust them.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
just,
and it's
you can't.
interesting. It makes sense that Shai would join with him with that kind of attitude, because her concept of, to gain his trust, I have to be genuine. And that's a strong lesson that she takes from the Emperor's Soul.
Plus, they've both been bested by Hoyd.
Oh, they both got a grudge against Hoyd. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love it I'd love if we get a scene of her seeing Hoyd again. It's like, I was in prison because of you. Yeah, sorry that.
Sorry.
He's like, ask me about how many times I've been in prison sometime.
I love it if it's like, no, it's got to be Batman Beyond, and it's like I need revenge on you. What did I do to you? And it's like, you don't remember? You got me locked up in prison. Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down?
Oh.
But I don't know. It's one of those things that it makes perfect sense that both of them understand how big the Cosmere is. And there was a very interesting word of Brandon that got dropped recently about I don't know if you heard about this. Bill and I were discussing this. Amy, have you heard this? Someone
Probably
asked
not, but go ahead.
Brandon about Yadith. If for those of you who don't remember who Yadith is, you could be forgiven because that's all the way back in Elantris. Yadith is the god of the
Shudareth.
Yeah. So I was gonna say Shodel. I'm like, no,
right.
Not Shodel. It's different.
No.
The Shudareth, the bad guys, essentially.
The martial arts one, right?
No.
No,
The one
the-
Hrathen was working for, the one Deloff was working for.
Okay. Go ahead.
The one that it's basically there were two disciples who split into different sects.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to read
And
the Elantris.
they someone said,
Kessid.
hey, looking at how things went down on Scadrial with Trell, I'm seeing a lot of things lining up with Yadith over on the Cell. Is this on purpose? He's like, that's a good catch. And he's basically all but confirmed that Yadith is an aspect of autonomy. Then you go back and you think autonomy doesn't like people coming together, or the shards coming together on planets. We know Odium went over there and had help. It would make perfect sense for autonomy to then try and take control of that situation over on that planet, and would then make perfect reason why someone like Shy would start wanting to work with other people resisting autonomy.
Yeah.
Not just taking advantage of the situation. It seems like that she basically seeded that situation.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like, the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I know is for the first time ever, I am excited for more stuff in Elantris, because I'm like, oh my goodness, it now matters.
Yeah, I need to. I'm so behind on all of the Word of Brandons and stuff that have come out, because I didn't get to watch the different things that Brandon read and stuff. I still haven't read the excerpt from Stormlight Archive 5 either. I need to find that and read that still.
But it's going to be very interesting to see that, because I had never I forgot a lot of what happened in Elantris. It's been a long time.
There's so many details that I've forgotten. Yeah.
Well, especially because, no offense to Brandon, obviously, it's his first published book. Well, and I think even Brandon's talked about that, where actually, like, if you go by actual writing order, Elantris was like his fourth book written, but Mistborn: The Final Empire was like the 12th or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was something like that. And
seventh.
Yeah, there was a lot of books in between.
7th or 8th.
Yeah, there was a lot of books in between them, and that's obviously there's going to be a lot of growth in between them. And so it's a little harder to go back to Elantris compared to Brandon's other works.
So Libralita in chat mentioned something. It says, and he said that Elantris 2 begins with their god returning. I don't think I've read this.
I missed that. Do you have a link on that one?
Yeah, if you can give me a link on that, there's
crazy.
A lot of implication there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Their god is very vague.
So one random thing that I liked in the Kelsier chapter at the end was, I hadn't thought about this until Kelsier, or I guess it says that he brings Harmony, whatever, brings it up as he's like he's talking about trying to breed Allomancers, and he's like, at least to darkness, Kel, trying to create perfect people through forced breeding. You don't have to be terrorist to find that idea nauseating. And I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, that would have a whole other level to it.
But I also love Kelsier's response to that. And it's like, the maybe preservation and ruin shouldn't have made a freaking power set that's based on genetics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because once
again, he's like, I'm going to democratize it, and it's like,
and then giving it to some people and not the others. Yeah,
I love that. Because both of them have such good points. Well, and the other thing I love is he's like, oh, so you agree with the set about this? And Kelsier, even in his own mind, doesn't deny that he thinks there's some merit to it. And it's just in case anyone forgot, that Kelsier is a dark character and is willing to do things to get the job done. He is not Journey before Destination.
Yeah.
He is the exact opposite.
He says to himself, I wouldn't go so far as this, but, and it's just like, and there's the but.
Yeah. There's the but.
His but. There's always people who are the opposite of good. That,
Yeah.
Who were going to
opposite of innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I could see Kelsier totally would be like, you know what? If you're guilty of murder, we get your powers. You become a spike.
Done.
You die through hemalurgy.
Yeah. And Kelsier's perfectly comfortable with that, because Kelsier's a dark character. And that's why he's so interesting, because he is trying to do what he thinks is right. And that's what makes him so dangerous.
Yeah.
Like someone like a Strath Venture can only be so dangerous. because he's selfish, and you can always appeal to his selfishness, and that's how you get one over on him. But someone like Kelsier, because he's trying to do the right thing, people who are trying to do the right thing are willing to go to lengths that others will not, and that's what's so terrifying about it. And it just this is such good setup. Like it's a juicy setup between these two, especially with you have the added thing of Kelsier doesn't even know if he's talking to Sazed or if it's just a facade that's being put in front of him. So he has to be guarded with what information he gives Sazed. But Sazed is clearly being very guarded about what information he gives to Kelsier, because if Kelsier finds out you can make not harmonium, Laracium, Kelsier's totally going to be like, all right, Mistborn for everyone.
Of my choosing,
if everyone's
probably.
super.
Oh no, I think Kelsier would be perfectly comfortable giving Mistborn powers to everyone.
Yeah.
Kelsier is someone who believes in
it's the same idea as Syndrome, because if everyone is super, no one will be.
I don't know. I still see him taking issue with giving it to like mass murderers. Or
well, I mean,
or
look
really,
at the
really
at the
bad
very
people.
start, yes,
Yeah,
but he would
no,
he'd be perfectly willing to giving it to society in general.
No, you were talking about Kelsier, just being perfectly fine doing a lot of things. It reminded me of a quote from C.S. Lewis. He says, "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. Those who torment those who torment paraphrasing, essentially somebody who's cruel, their cruelty may be at some point satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience." That's Kelsier.
Well, and it's one of my favorite things. Brandon talks about the what ifs. What if Kelsier had survived his encounter with the Lord Ruler, and has all but confirmed, like, we basically would have gotten a French Revolution style revolution where there was going to be a lot of death,
lots of beheadings. Yeah,
and so Kelsier needed to go through secret history to realize, and Docs came to the same conclusion. It was a good thing that I wasn't 100% successful. And you'll notice Kelsier has the ultimate opportunity. If he showed up in the middle of society right now, all the Southern Scadrians would be willing to follow him. Most of the survivorists would be willing, like, dude, our god's back. Let's go, like, just do what he said. Like, he could take all sorts of power. It's interesting he's not. I think part of the part of Kelsier that wants to run a secret organization is also the part of Kelsier that says, I can't have that much power, like that much open, naked power. I need to stick to the shadows.
Libralita again in chat mentions, Brandon also said in the live stream that the set was created because of Kelsier, but Kel wouldn't see it that way. So it was probably just, again, a response.
Yeah.
Or it could be that the other way it could be that way is they found some of his hemalurgic research, and had he and Spook not gone down that route, it wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Or perhaps Autonomy saw survivorism and said, "Ooh, I can use something like this."
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Brandon's being deliciously vague. But it's I mean, not to be Obi-Wan about it, but it all comes from a certain point of view.
Yep.
But there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before we get off the subject of the epilogues, was the Ars Arcanum. I think a lot of people didn't read the Ars Arcanum because normally at the end of it is just, it's just fluff. But the very last page and a half is Chris got to interview Marsh.
What? I didn't read it.
I knew someone.
Amy.
I knew one of the three. I knew.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
It's okay.
Don't be sorry. Be
No.
better.
No. No, and so Chris is talking about how she got to interview Marsh. Like, it took a lot of time to get this set up, and I'll bet. But
I
in
see
it,
where it is now, but I'll read it.
she talks a lot
Amy,
about.
just so you know, I was quoting God of War. I wasn't
Yeah.
actually criticizing you.
That's okay. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't
No,
remember.
so but one of the things she talks about is she confirms that Marsh is capable of compounding, something we already knew, obviously, because he's been using that trick to survive with the ATM. But there's always been the question: why aren't the set just, why aren't they creating 100 miles out there? Like, that'd be just be a win. You have a bunch of unkillable people just compounding
Right.
gold or compounding speed. Why aren't they doing it? And we find out compounding is broken for the new
For hemalurgy.
Yeah, for hemalurgy. And she talks about how she's theorizing it's because of the change from Ruin now being Sazed, and Sazed's natural inclination towards preservation has changed the magic.
That's what it was.
The other thing they said is her other theory is when Ruin was active, he wanted these types of things to be going on, and so he was affecting people's spirit webs as they were being born. And so only old Scadrians are capable of using hemalurgy to compound.
Which is why Marsh is still able to.
But no, why the set couldn't do it? Because the set would have abused that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's why. Apparently, that's also why you can't have more than a few. Apparently, you can keep spiking yourself. You stop getting powers at a certain point now, because there's just basically, it sounds like there's just not enough room on your spirit web now. But there's one thing that my brain immediately went to, because I'm like, well, doesn't work for Kelsier. Kelsier can only have the one spike that keeps his soul attached to his body. And so, I guess it's only Marsh. And then I realized there's one other old Scadrian that is 100% alive nowadays. Felt.
Yep.
And so, and Felt is still alive. And so now I think it's through more mundane things. It's through relativistic tricks by moving through the Shadesmar. But there's a chance that he's doing something else because he has more room to be spiked or something. Or there's potential for that in the future.
Right. And that's more what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think he is just yet. But
yeah.
Honestly, that's just a gut feeling.
Yeah. Of all the ways to gain immortality in the Cosmere, of which we now know there's a few, that's the least pleasant.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Also, it's one of those, it has decreasing returns.
Yeah, because it is an end negative art. But I don't know. Again, it's the stupid part of me that loves the crossover stuff. I love that Chris got to interview Marsh, because now Chris is also now one of the few people who has talked to both Marsh and Kelsier.
Yeah.
And there's very few of those people left.
I also love that Marsh, like, Sazed liked that Marsh was seen as this death figure, and so he invests him and has him speak to people as they die.
He is the stay spiked
sometimes.
Marsh hallowed man.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
the puns.
To our listeners, we love hearing from you, so please keep sending in your questions and feedback. You can ask us about the Cosmere. You can drop us your ideas for topics that you would like us to discuss during the show. And while you're at it, we would love to hear feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories that you might have about what's going on at the Cosmere. You can send all questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and hopefully we could read that as part of the show. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up this next year, so there will be a lot of stuff to theorize on.
Sanderson.
Yeah, I'm buying some books. That's what's happening next year. You can also write us at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. We do have our own personal projects outside of the podcast, so Amy, why don't you start us off and let us know what you've been up to and how we can find you?
So my Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is coincidence_cosplay, and my TikTok is @CoincidenceCosplay, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. How many times can I do those syllables? Ugh. Anyway, so I am really close to having my Jawa done because I'm gonna go trooping with that, and I'm waiting for some parts for my Imperial officer. Did you play Utini?
No, I said it.
Teeny.
I need to figure out all the buttons on my glove, but I have a glove that makes different sounds. So it's gonna be fun that way.
Do you know what a
Nice.
Jawa's favorite drink is?
No.
Martini.
Get
Nice.
out.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, the other thing I've been working on is my secret Sazed gift. So but I won't be able to really show much more of that until after
Yeah,
my
it
person
won't be
gets it.
so secret if you do that.
Mhm.
I know. Yeah, anyway, but cool stuff like that. Otherwise just hanging out and finishing up some cosplay things, and I'm going to try and do better at posting. But the other big thing is that we as a podcast are on TikTok, and if we can get up to 1,000 followers, we're like at 59 or something right now, then I can go and do lives with other cosplay or other Cosmere creators, but only if I'm at 1,000.
So we need y'all to
Followers.
start following.
So follow me, and I will have more than just me announcing that it's the podcast is that day. I'm going to start putting up clips of the podcast. So if you have clips that you want me to put on there on the TikTok, then let me know
Mm-hmm.
so that I can do that. So yeah,
Cool.
that's me.
All right, Jordan, your turn.
Well, this is an awkward time for me to do this because I will be going home after this week, and I won't be streaming for a while. But there will be one last week of streams for the end of the year over at YouTube/Splice Stream, as it says over my head if you're in the audio version. Thursday should be my last stream of the year. I might do something one-off while I'm at home in Texas, but not too much because I'm going to be going into video making mode when I don't have to plan for streams, so that'll be nice. And and also fix my dang overlay mode because right now it's being held together with baling wire and spikes, and so
That's always fun.
it is. But so yeah, the main thing is please go over to youtube.com/splicestream. Give me a follow, please, and if you do, I think you're going to enjoy the amiibo content. It is really swell.
Cool. And then I have another podcast with my friend Dylan about board games called The Innkeeper's Table. We have new episodes every Friday morning. Of course, we are also on hiatus until January. So now
Great
is a
time to
perfect
catch up.
time. I was going to say now is a perfect time to go in and listen to our back catalog. We've got about 120, more than 120 episodes over there. So you should definitely go check those out as well. For those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become patrons, we'd love it if you just let your friends know about the show. Spread the word. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. And if you toss us a good review wherever you listen to us, we would love that. You can also head over to store.streamelements.com/Cosmere Studies and buy SICS merchandise, as in SICS Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. That is a mouthful that I say several times per episode.
Yeah, people said that a lot to us at the convention.
Yes, indeed. All right, final thoughts.
Squeak.
Final thoughts on these final thoughts.
I love how he clarified that, and then Amy clarified it with squee, but in a higher pitch.
Don't make me go higher, please. It's hard.
My final thought was I forgot on the title belt. I forgot one more person I was supposed to point out. Steve did better than all of us. He had 59 points in total, which tied him for 16th place.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Good job, Steve.
That's very
That's
nice.
our boy.
There we go.
Okay. Special thanks to our patron producer, Mims Laundry Service, preferred for aether removal by 15 out of 16 Ghost Bloods. In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies, and TikTok under the profile at Cosmere Studies. Our next episode is going to be on Kolos Head Munching Day, known locally as December 19th, which will also be the day the next State of the Sanderson is posted. At this point, who knows what the heck is going to show up in there. If you're not watching Brandon's live stream that evening, then you should definitely join us for our live recording on Monday, December 19th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time at 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember, there's always another secret.